First question off the bat. Obviously, this was one of the big main events that had been scheduled and then moved because of the pandemic. Can you just talk about what the adjustments were like to have to essentially do another half of your camp?
Um, it wasn't really a big deal for me. The longer the camp, the better my conditioning gets. The pandemic really didn't affect my training schedule. I still had all my sparring partners, my coaches. We still had the use of, uh, well, the limited use of a couple of our team facilities. So it's been a smooth camp. I mean, as smooth as it can be.
What's the thing that makes Volkov dangerous that he brings to the table?
Um, he's got long legs and he knows how to use his reach and likes to keep uh, distance. So those are the main things that we've been focusing on, and that's what I think he's the best at.
Now, this fight is obviously very important in terms of the title picture. They just announced that the heavyweight title is finally going to be back in play in August. What's it been like to just, you're doing work in the division and now finally you're a step closer to the belt getting sorted out and possibly your own title shot?
I'm just happy to know that they got it all signed out. The contracts are signed and it's going to happen officially. It gives me the ability to project my own trajectory into the future.
Final one from me. Who do you have winning the trilogy, DC or Stipe?
I don't know. I mean, they've already fought twice and they've gone 1-1. So honestly, I don't really care. I've heard he's going to retire, win, lose, or draw. And I've also heard reports that Stipe has also been contemplating retirement, and I think I would lean towards him also retiring. So it really doesn't matter to me who wins. I can honestly care less.
Thank you, Curtis.
Our next question is from Ezekiel Berganzi from Super Luchas.
Hello, Curtis. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Fine, thanks. You are facing Alexander Volkov, who said that he's going to rely in his striking to fight against you and your wrestling abilities. What do you think about that? How are you approaching for this fight in that sense?
I mean, my game plan is always the same. It's a pretty universal game plan. Pressure, pace, wrestling, ground and pound. Doesn't matter who you are. Cain Velasquez, Stipe, DC, Volkov. It works on everyone.
And do you think that the small cage will be an important factor for you putting your game plan on the fight, or do you think it's not a matter of the octagon at all?
Well, I think, like I said, my game plan it will works in a small octagon or a big octagon, but I think it will be that much more effective in a smaller octagon because you won't have as much room to maneuver away and to like keep distance. It'll be easier to close the gap and get in his face.
And my last question is how it was this training camp in pandemic and with all what happened, how it was training, how it was the sparring sessions. Can you tell us about that?
It was pretty much the same. I had my sparring partners. We sparred at the same time in the same spots. So I know a lot of people are under the impression that because of the pandemic, it's hard to train. But for me, it was pretty much the same. Nothing was able to, nothing about my camp was altered.
Thank you, Curtis, and good luck on Saturday.
Up next, we'll have Alistair Bishop from MMA Republic.
Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. Curtis, if I can, I just want to kind of get your opinion on the outlook of the heavyweight division. Your only losses come to Francis Ngannou. where do you see yourself here with the win? I mean, I think Francis is knocking on that number one contender status. Once the title picture is done, where do you see yourself fitting into that picture?
I guess it depends on what happens with Stipe. If he decides to retire, then it'll be a vacant belt, and most likely Ngannou versus me for that vacant belt. If he decides to not retire, then it'll be Ngannou versus Stipe. I'll just wait my turn.
And how do you see? It would seem, in my opinion, the picture looks like that we might see yourself versus Francis a third time. How do you see that playing out, and what difference would there be?
I see myself winning. I just see myself taking him down like I did in our first fight, and this time landing heavy ground and pound.
So do you think the key to beating Francis would be implementing your wrestling?
I use my wrestling on everyone.
And what do you say to critics of that sort of lay and pray style? I mean, your wrestling style is way more exciting. No, I'm not saying yours. I'm just saying guys hit out. They'll say lay and pray sort of style. Yours is high impact wrestling and very effective. And one of the more exciting things about your style is that we know what to expect, and you still are able to implement that game plan. But what do you say to critics that criticize a heavy wrestling sort of approach?
And if you don't like it, you don't gotta watch.
Fantastic. That's all from me. Best of luck. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask you a few first.
Sure.
So one of the biggest aspects of your game that we've seen in all of your fights is dominance. You know, what's something about your fighting style that just people break under your pressure and everything that you do?
Because nobody likes to wrestle. It's hard to build up the muscle memory that it takes to defend the type of pressure I'm bringing. It's grueling, it's grinding, and guys don't want to do it. Guys want to just have space and huck haymakers at each other because it takes a lot less energy. When a guy is hanging on you and making your arms tired, making your back tired, making your neck tired, they get tired and they don't want to be there no more.
Is there a point in your fights typically where you feel your opponent kind of break under that type of pressure?
Yeah, it usually happens in the second round. I don't really have I don't think I've ever gotten anyone out in the first round because that's not my game. My game's based off attrition. It will wear you out. And they usually break somewhere in that second round. Like my fight with Alistair, I laid on him the first round. I laid on him the second round. And then the third round, when I felt that his arms weren't very strong anymore, I was able to get my elbows loose and land a couple of those.
Have you seen anything in Volkov's past fights that indicate, hey, maybe that is an opportunity for me in this fight that I can take advantage of? He does have that ability to break.
I think everyone has that ability to break because there's no one else in this division that has my wrestling pedigree. They're not built for this. I'm built to grind out guys for 15 to 25 minutes.
My last question is, plenty's obviously made about your wrestling and your dominance in that, and we've seen your striking evolve too. That's something that I want to point out. And how have you been able to build that, and how do you think it's going to assist you in this matchup with Volkov?
My striking is organically growing off my wrestling. My striking coach, I've been blessed to meet him, Vinny Lopez, and he was able to adapt and give me combos and footwork that blended into my striking, like my high-lows. That's based off wrestling. The high-low doesn't work if you can't wrestle. Guys won't respect it. That's how I got Junior. Like if you don't respect the wrestling, then I'll come back up top with the overhand.
Up next, we'll go to Georgi Kokashvili from Ajara Sport. Your line has been unmuted.
Oh, thank you so much, Curtis. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Thank you. I feel good. Curtis, are you looking to fight at the stand, or are you considering to fight at grappling? Because we have seen you have done great against Junior Dos Santos, 2 rounds to KO. And do you think it will be hard to done it again against Volkov?
I mean, that's up to him. Had you asked me before the Junior Dos Santos, I would have told you I was going to take him down and ragdoll him. Obviously, that didn't happen, but it opened up other opportunities to strike. So I'm adaptable. Like if he wants to commit his whole defense to stopping my wrestling, I'll strike. If he doesn't want to commit his whole defense to stopping my wrestling, that's the only way you can stop it. You have to commit everything to it. If you don't do that, then I will take you down. So it's pretty much pick your poison.
Thank you. And my last question is about Francis Ngannou. Are you looking to fight again against him because you lost the fight against Francis Ngannou, and this fight looks like for me like a semifinal for you to reach the title shot? And do you consider it as if Cormier and Miocic have done, and you are next?
I mean, I do believe that Ngannou is next, and then I'm right behind him. So I knew we would fight again after I lost the last one. Like I was only 27 years old then. I'm 29 now. I'm gonna be here for a long time, so this was inevitable. And I don't view Ngannou the way everyone else does. I guess because I've already been in there with him twice, and I'm alive still. Like everyone else thinks he's Godzilla, and he'll just destroy you. I don't view him that way. I view him as a man. He has pros in his game, and he has cons in his game. One of his biggest cons is lack of conditioning and lack of grappling ability. So those are the things I'll target when we do fight again.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best on such day.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Colin Crandall from MMA Power Hour.
Hey, Curtis, how are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Doing very well. So this is a rare, taller opponent for you at 6'7". Does that present any interesting problems for you? Have you had anybody that tall that you've been able to train with, or do you have anyone like that now?
Yeah, I've worked with taller guys. It doesn't make a difference. When you're on your back, we're all the same height.
Okay. Obviously, he's a striker, and he's a pretty decorated striker, maybe not the most in the division, but one of the more decorated strikers. How much can he do to adjust his game, to you? Everyone knows that one of the goals you'll have is to take him down. Can he make a great deal of improvement, and does he have any chance of continuing to shut down your takedowns?
You don't get my wrestling in a few months. That's why it's so good. I've been doing this for a long time, since 2005. You don't get my wrestling in a few months, so I don't think there's anything he can do about that. If I'm him, I'm looking to come out hard and fast and get me out of there early, because the longer it goes, the worse it gets for him.
Gotcha. Now, at 29 years old, you're one of the younger fighters in the heavyweight division. That puts you in a good position. How do you feel physically? Do you feel you're at your best yet? You're at your prime or at your peak, or not even quite there yet?
No, I know I haven't peaked out yet. This isn't my final evolution. There's a lot that I haven't added yet into my training. I look forward to growing. I know I've got at least 8 or 9 more years, and there's going to be a lot of growth over these next couple years.
Absolutely. Last question for me. Neither of you guys are known for being high-level jiu-jitsu guys, but if you get into some interesting scrambles in the ground, if he's able to move around and start trying to throw up some triangles or arm bars, how do you feel your jiu-jitsu compares with his?
I think I'm the better grappler overall. Like, my jiu-jitsu is an offensive base. I go to jiu-jitsu practice to learn how to pass and to learn how to get into positions to land heavy ground and pound. I'm not ever going to look for a submission unless you're just like the worst grappler in the world. I'd rather get in half guard and hang out in half guard and just elbow you. I don't need to go for a Kimura or Darce. I don't need that stuff.
Do you feel comfortable with your submission defense?
Yes, very, very comfortable, especially since Alice has been at Team Elevation the last year and a half.
Definitely some good training I hear you're getting with Alistair. Well, I appreciate your time a lot. Wish you the best of luck, my friend.
Thank you.
And our last question will come from Heidi Fang from Las Vegas Review Journal.
Thank you for the time. I first wanted to ask about some records here that you could possibly eclipse come Saturday night, one of them being Randy Couture's time in the cage as a heavyweight. You would need 8 minutes, 17 seconds, as far as I've read, to be able to surpass the amount of time that he fought in the cage. I want to know what that means to you and just how different records, like what you set with your wrestling in the heavyweight division of 45 takedowns, and you had already surpassed Cain Velasquez, what these records mean to you as you go on your journey.
It just mean it validates the argument that I am the best grappler. I know there are other good grapplers, good wrestlers, good jiu-jitsu players, but I'm the best at it. I'm going to break a lot more records.
Also, I know that you hail from Chicago as well as Denver. Your father is a police officer. Your brother is a police officer. You have come out to speak about systemic racism and Black Lives Matter and the protests. I wanted to get from you your take on everything that's happening, especially being that you do have family who are police officers out there in Chicago right now.
Well, obviously, I'm pro Black Lives Matter. I do feel like there is systemic racism, especially with all the police brutality that has been targeted towards the black community. But I've been very happy to see all the protests and see that the majority of the crowds, it seems like it's like 65% young white Americans, and that means that their eyes have been open, their ears are open, they hear our cries, they know about the plight of the black community, and they're willing to help. They're willing to risk their own freedoms and to risk being injured and whatnot, and maybe getting arrested. And that just restores my faith in humanity. Like, it lets me know that there is hope, and I know that this movement won't get off the ground without the white community helping out. Like, we need to be together, and that's just been one of the most inspiring things about these protests as of late. Just a huge support coming out of the white community.